Hi guys, welcome back to chemistry. So this week we're taking a look at the periodic table of elements. The videos last week went kind of long, so what I tried to do this week is make more videos, but a lot shorter videos. So for these three parts of this lesson, you're going to watch a short video and then answer a 5-question Google quiz based on just that video or slideshow. Let me know if you'd prefer to have a copy of the slideshow, and I can post a copy of the slideshow really quickly for you in Google Classroom. So let's get right into today's lesson. Part 1 for this week's lesson is the basics of the periodic table of elements. So to begin with, I just want to point out some links here for the periodic table. These first three are interactive periodic tables, which means if you click on this first one, this is one of my favorite ones, by the way, and you go and click on, say, this element here, copper, what would happen is a new window would pop up and it would explain properties of copper, uses of copper, number of electrons, number of protons, number of neutrons, all of this stuff, important things that you need to know about copper. This link down here at the bottom allows you to download copies of the periodic table of elements. So if you wanted a black and white copy that was cheap to print off, or a color copy with all the features on it, or if you wanted to print off a blank copy of the periodic table of elements, just so you could quiz yourself on the names or information for the elements. That's something that we would be doing if we were in the classroom. Okay, before we get into looking at elements and the periodic table, you need to have a basic understanding of atoms themselves. So we think about an ion of an atom as an atom that doesn't have an equal number of protons and electrons. So all atoms have three particles: protons, electrons, and neutrons. Protons are positive, electrons are negative, and neutrons have a neutral charge, no charge. An ion doesn't have an equal number of protons and electrons, which means that it has an overall charge. It could be positive or negative. So if it had more protons, it would be positive. If it had more electrons, it would be negative. An isotope is kind of similar to an ion. It's not entirely stable. It's going to change. So the number has the same number of electrons and protons, but a different number of neutrons, and that can also change the way that it's going to react. Now, these two are the two most important terms you need from this lesson: atomic mass and the atomic number. Atomic mass is the number of protons and neutrons in an atom. It's actually all of the particles combined together, and it's how an atom is identified. Now, only protons and neutrons actually have mass. Electrons don't have mass because they're always spinning around. So when you look at the atomic number, it's just the particles in the nucleus. So just the protons and the neutrons inside the nucleus of the atom. The electrons are flying around sort of in orbits. Yeah, and it basically, the atomic number is how we organize the periodic table of elements. Okay, so you're somewhat familiar with looking at the element cards because you had to do this for that meme assignment. You guys did really, really well on, by the way. Some of those chemistry memes were really funny. I appreciated them. Thank you. That up at the top here of the card is the element name. Now, it's very rarely the English name. It's usually based on the Latin or Greek term for that element. The symbol is an abbreviation for the Latin or Greek name, so they don't always correspond to English words again. The big number up at the top here, it's always going to be a whole number. That's your atomic number, so the number of protons in the nucleus of the atom, number of protons and neutrons, by the way. The atomic mass is going to be a little bit different because electrons change the mass of the atom, even though they're always moving around. It's kind of weird. So the atomic mass is the average mass of atoms in the element. And that's why this is always going to be a decimal, because the atoms are always changing. Sometimes they're giving off electrons or sharing electrons. So this number is an average. Really important for you guys to know about this is that the atomic mass is the number of protons and neutrons in one atom of this element. Yes, I said that right. Here's the three most important things you need to know from this slideshow. The atomic mass is the average mass of one atom of this element. It's also the number of protons and neutrons. The atomic number is a little bit different. It's the number of protons in one atom, and there's going to be the same number of electrons as long as it's a stable atom, that element. So atomic number is the number of protons, which is also the number of electrons. And finally, the element symbol and name might not be the same because they're usually based on Latin or Greek words, not English words. For a quick example here, silver, the symbol for silver is Ag. That's because it's an abbreviation for the Latin word for silver, which was argentium. Okay, here's your assignment for part 1 of this week's lessons. You're going to go and complete the 5-question periodic table basics Google quiz, and then move on to part 2 of this week's lessons. If you have any questions, let me know. Otherwise, I'll see you in a little bit for part 2.